Hello, this is Linda Price, and I just wanted to do a short video to introduce myself and put this on my channel. And I, as you probably know, do lots of junk journals and lots of embellishments and ephemera and lots of tatting. I'm a tatter, and I've been tatting for about 25 years. Um, I started At first, my sister tried to teach me to shuttle tat, and I don't know what happened, but she's right-handed, I'm left-handed, and I think being a left-hander, you everything's backwards a lot of times. And however she tried to teach me, everything was backwards. I could not understand it. So I don't know if there's any left-handers out there that have learned to tat being taught by a right-hander. I'm not sure. But I decided that I just couldn't do it. And we didn't have a lot of time either. Tatting takes a lot of time to teach. I know I've done lots of classes in the past, and I have a 2-hour class that I've taught, and I can teach the basics, and some people catch it and some people don't. Especially if you've already been a crocheter or a knitter, you've got that mindset in your head about handwork and stitching. And if you're not a knitter, not a crocheter, it's hard to get that going. It's just a way that people that do the sewing and needlework think. And usually people who do needlework, I started on cross stitch, things like that, and little things. So you have to think little when you tat, not a big stitch. So anyway, I've taught lots of people to tat, but they don't keep it up. Most of them, I can count on my one hand how many people I know that have kept it up since I taught them how to tat. And that's sad because it's just a way that people, if you don't like fussy stuff and you don't like fiddling with stuff, you're going to have to fiddle a lot with tatting because there's lots of things that happen with the knots and all the things that happen. But if you can just get past that and just keep going, which I did. So I'll go back to my story. I didn't do it for a while. But we live in Tennessee, and so I love to go up to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, and up there was a needle shop in one of the little malls. And I walked in there, and I saw these needles hanging on a display, and it said needle tatting. And I'm thinking, needle tatting? Is that the same thing as shuttle tatting? Does it look like the same thing? And I pulled it out, and I looked at it, and sure enough, it was the same thing. I know there's differences. I know that needle tatting is not as tight. Now that you can't get as small because you're going around a needle than shuttle tatting, because you're just working with the thread on shuttle tatting, but you're working with this needle on needle tatting. But depending on the thickness of the thread, you can get it pretty small, and I have. And then there's different size needles. When I started tatting, I used a size 5. There's a size 3 and a size 7. I use the 3 sometimes, but mostly I use the 5. And then there's the thickness of the thread. You can use the size 5 needle, but get a thickness of like 20 for the thread, and it's very, very thin. And the thinner the thread when you're trying to learn how to needle tat, the more problems with knots you're going to get. So you have to just start out with a size 5 needle and size 10 crochet thread. And I get most of my crochet thread at Hobby Lobby. It's that they usually have it on the end of the display over there by the by the yarn. Sorry, I went out here. And so I get that, but I don't get white. I don't like white. Really, I don't like white and tatting. Tatting looks best in the natural or the cream or off-white. It just picks up all of the shadows better, I think, and shows the dimension of it better. So that's why I use that. Plus, I order tatting thread from Handy Hands on the internet. They have, it's in the Lizbeth thread. It's Lizbeth, Lizbeth thread that I order, and I order it in size 10. So, not 20, don't get 20. They have so many shades, I can't tell you how many balls of Lizbeth thread I have. I mean, I could go over there and get them all and show them to you, but that would just take so much time. Maybe in another video I will. But so between that but I mostly use the natural or the off-white or cream crochet thread to tat with. And well, anyway, go back to my story. This was back in the 25 years ago. That's in the 70s. Maybe 80s. I'm not sure. I can't keep track of anything anymore. I'm too old. Anyway, I bought the kit, and it had an instruction booklet in it. Well, that was before the internet. I know this was before the internet, so it had to be in the 70s, because I think the internet came in the 80s, early 80s, or maybe the end of the 70s. But this was before the internet, and so there was no YouTube, no instructions to watch, nobody to watch their fingers, how they're tatting, just these words on a page, and I'm not good with words on pages. I don't know about you. I have to watch somebody do it, and I can get it a whole lot quicker. So I'll tell you, it took me, I remember we were up there, and it was a year of the Olympics, and I was sitting there watching the Olympics and trying to do my connecting of my, when I make the picot, and you go into the next picot on the next ring. Oh, I could not get it. And it took me probably 6 months to figure out how to do that. I had nobody to show me, and just go back over all these instructions, and it just, there was nothing about needle tatting anywhere. It was all shuttle tatting. So I was really at a disadvantage back then. So I guess, if you're going to stick with something, I stuck with that, because I thought, I loved the look of it, and I thought, I'm going to get this, and I finally did. So that's when I started needle tatting, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I mean, now it's a challenge to do something new, because most of it, there's only 2 stitches. There's a picot, and there's a double stitch, and that's it. And it's just the combination of it all that comes up with such beautiful, beautiful designs. And you can get on YouTube and look at, I've made jewelry, I've made earrings, I've made bracelets, necklaces, and I've made rings, and you name it, I've made it in tatting. I just like to try all kinds of things. And my latest is that now that in between all that, while I was learning to tat and doing this, we opened a store. We started out in the mall in one of these little carts. You've seen them in the carts. We were across from the Hallmark, so it was a pretty popular area. And I started selling rubber stamps. And we were the first rubber stamp store in Chattanooga. And it started, that's when it just got big. So we were there for a year, and we started there at Christmas, so we really did well then, and we kept going for the next year. And We live in the town where the Chattanooga Choo Choo is, and you probably heard that song. You know that song, "Pardon Me, Boys, is that the Chattanooga Choo Choo?" That one. So there's a real chat. I remember I called out to California one time to order something, and the guy said to me, "Is there a real Chattanooga Choo Choo?" I said, "Oh yes, there is. I'm standing in it right now." And so we had one of the stores there that used to be part of the whole warehouse side, and where they stored things off of the trains, and so we were in one of the places in there, and I had a pretty big shop, and then I got into scrapbooking because scrapbooking went with stamping, and so I got into all that, and I got into paper making, I got into ways to embossing, I got all that stuff. So I had that for 10 years, and then we sold it to a lady that worked with us. It keeps going out, I'm sorry. She worked with us, and I was close to the age of retirement, so I wanted to retire and partially retire and change my direction, but I still wanted to keep it up. And I did a lot of craft shows, and I did a lot of I had booths in craft markets, and I still have up till last year I did that. But since I've been on the internet, that's taking up all my time, which is great because I don't have to leave home, just except to mail my packages. That's it. So the post office knows me real well. They know exactly what I want, how I want to mail it, and everything. So it's nice to just take them in. And the post office isn't far away, so I just take them there when my orders are done. So let's see. So then we when I got into journal making, I found it on the internet. I'm thinking, I can use everything I learned way back when and pour it into these journals. And from handmade paper, which I'd like to start those classes up again because that they were fun, to dyeing paper, to dyeing all kinds of stuff, to manipulating inks and doing mixed media. I've done the trading cards. I have a whole book of artist trading cards. We even had a stamp convention at the Choo Choo, and we traded the trading cards, and I have a whole book full of people's trading cards because I traded with them, and that's a really unique story of how they started way back I don't know if it was the 16th, 17th century or something like that. Um, what it was these artists, they would they'd do portraits, and the customer wouldn't know what their portraits looked like, and of course they didn't have them with them, so they would do these little cards, and they'd paint on them, and they'd give them out as like calling cards and said, "This is my style, this is what I do." And that was the beginning of the trading cards. The artists that did portraits and different kinds of art would do little miniature paintings and pass them out like that. So anyway, that was something that I was into way back then too. So I mean, this has come all the way around full circle to these junk journals, and I'm so glad that I found all this because I really enjoy doing them. Well, I won't keep you anymore, but just wanted to give you an idea of what I do and why I do it and where my history has been. And just nice to meet you and to speak with you so you could just see me. I know that from time to time I do see artists, and it's nice to see more than just their hands and get to know them a little bit. So thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.